Hi team, this is Nikki O'Keeffe, ATD Internal Senior Facilitator, and I am here to share a tip in Storyline, and it's all about recording your voice. How can you use your voice to bring some life to your e-learning courses? So this is a short tip to infuse some personality, and it's all about using you as the personality rather than maybe going out there and paying for some sort of voiceover, because we have the opportunity to do it right here within Storyline. So maybe you've tried it before, maybe not. I encourage you to practice along with me if you would like. So I've started us off with a slide here that's just talking about how we can record our voice in Storyline. We see that we have no audio files quite yet. I do want to point out a few features, and then I'll show you exactly how we can do that. So in our insert toolbar, we have the audio option. And this says that we can either record or import an audio clip or music. And these are the options available. Now, you may be quite familiar with how we can pull an audio from a file. That could be any sort of WAV file. You can easily insert that. You'll see it pop into the timeline wherever you have that play bar. But I'm going to remove that out because we're going to do something a little bit more fun and fancy. Let's look at some of our other options. Insert audio. Well, we could also pull from the media library. The one I really want to focus in on is recording mic. So we'll look at that in just a moment. But I also wanted to point out this text-to-speech option. Now, when could this be useful? Well, maybe you are in the development phase and you want to send something over quickly to your stakeholders to get their buy-in. Make sure it's A-OK before you do all the recording. Give this a whirl. Insert text-to-speech. So let's say we want this slide to maybe read what's here. Record your voice in Storyline. We get to pick what that character sounds like. We could even preview the voice.
Hi, my name is Joanna.
There.
I will read any text you type here.
That sounds pretty good to me. Another fancy feature is this generate closed captions option. So I'm actually going to click that just so you can see what happens when that is turned on. So I'm hitting now the insert button, and we see there it is loaded into our timeline. If we want to see what this actually sounds like, looks like.
Record your voice in Storyline.
There we go. It has generated that audio for me. Now you may think, sounds a little bit robotic. Yes, it does, but it's not too bad. And like I said, it's great for review purposes.
Storyline.
What I wanted to show you here is that if I actually turn on those closed captions,
Record your voice in Storyline.
voila, look at that.
Record your voice in Storyline.
How cool. So that's already done for us. So that's just a handy text-to-speech tip. If that's something you haven't tried, give that a whirl. But I'm actually going to remove that out because I wanted to focus in on actually recording our own voices here in Storyline. I'm going to pull us back in the timeline because I want this to start right at the beginning. So that last option I wanted to call out was audio record mic. Now, you have a voice. You should be heard. You can pop on a headset and speak directly into your mic, and you'll get some audio, some narration straight into your Storyline course. What does this look like? Well, I'm going to hit record microphone. I hit the red button as soon as I'm ready, say what I need to say, and I can insert it directly into my slide. So I'm going to give this a whirl. Record your voice in Storyline. Now what I'm noticing is, I don't know if I quite liked that. So let's take a peek at the editor here. Let's see how it sounded.
Record your voice in Storyline.
So I didn't quite like it. So I have a couple options. I could edit here directly, or I can just choose to re-record. Okay, so I could cancel and try it again. Record your voice in Storyline. Let's give that another little preview.
Record your voice in storyline.
Okay, that's a little bit better. Now, while I'm in this editor, what I wanted to show you is that we can crop and we can also silence. And I quite like the silence option. Maybe when I'm first, trying to get up and running here when I'm recording, because what I can do is highlight maybe what I want to silence, hit that button and look at that. It can then jump straight into what I want to say. So I'm going to leave it like that with a little bit of silence. I'll hit yes to that edit. And another cool thing while we're here is I can just directly add in if you have any narration script. So maybe I want to put in here, record your voice in storyline. Keeping it all in the neat and tidy, all right there, beautiful. So I'm going to hit save and watch what happens here. My audio is now directly in the timeline. So if I preview this slide,
Record your voice in storyline.
I'll see it there and hear it. So that's what I'm looking for. Now remember, you could always move your audio file to where you want it to actually sound on the screen in terms of the seconds. I'll leave it right at the start. How simple was that? Let's move on to this next slide and talk a little bit about best practices when it comes to using our mic to record. So you just saw me do it, but what do we need to consider? Well, we need to consider the environment we're in. So when we're recording, we want to reduce static. So even in that recording, I heard a bit of static. So I'd probably try to make sure I work to get rid of that even a little bit further. Right now I'm wearing a simple Logitech headset, but maybe I try to go a little bit bigger and better with some of my sound equipment. I could definitely do that. Maybe I consider turning off air conditioners or electronic equipment. I know I have a sign hanging on my doorbell so that the doorbell doesn't ring when I'm recording. I'm also going to want to ensure that I have some sort of script, or I write down what I want to say, or maybe I have a second monitor that displays my language so that I don't get lost with my words when I'm trying to record. I also recommend recording in short bursts. That way you can easily just re-record if needed rather than trying to speak for maybe 15 minutes straight. Another best practice is to practice. So make sure you run through the clicks, what you're trying to say, what you're trying to do. Doing them at the same time can be a little bit challenging. So make sure you give it a practice. Consistency. What do we mean by that? Well, make sure that what you're saying actually relates to what's on the screen. Make sure there's some connection there. Your voice. Your voice is powerful, but make sure it's quality. Are you feeling a little bit under the weather or congested? Don't record one part of the file while congested and then try and do it again when you're feeling better, because there's going to be, again, that inconsistency in the voice. Also, make sure that you're adding audio for value add. We don't necessarily need narration on every slide. When is there a purpose to it? Really go back to those core design best practices, instructional design best principles when making those decisions. And then, of course, edit as required. And it's okay. You may need to do it a few times. You may need to make some tweaks, play around with it till it sounds pretty good. So those are overall some best practices when recording your voice directly in Storyline. I hope you give it a try, have some fun with it, and bring life to your courses. Hope to see you next time. Thanks, everyone.